The handwritten invitation trembled in Owen Reeves' calloused fingers as he stood before the ornate entrance of the Heritage Grand Hotel, feeling more out of place than a snowman in summer. His best friend Marco had begged him to take his place at this high society charity gala after a family emergency. And Owen, despite every instinct screaming to run back to his modest apartment, and his 8-year-old daughter Lily, had reluctantly agreed. The rented tuxedo pinched in all the wrong places, a constant reminder that he didn't belong in this world of champagne flutes and crystal chandeliers. "Invitation, sir?" The doorman's voice jolted Owen from his anxious thoughts. "Yes, right here." He handed over the embossed card, trying to ignore the slight tremble in his hand. "I'm attending on behalf of Marco Alvarez. He had a family situation." The doorman nodded professionally. "Of course, sir. Please enjoy the evening." Owen stepped into the ballroom and immediately felt the air leave his lungs. The space was transformed into a winter wonderland, icicle chandeliers casting prismatic light across silk-draped tables, while delicate white blooms cascaded from crystal vases. The crowd was a sea of designer gowns and tailored suits, the air filled with the gentle hum of refined conversation and live classical music. As a construction foreman struggling to make ends meet since his wife died 3 years ago, Owen's idea of a fancy night out was the local diner when they offered the 2-for-1 burger special on Tuesdays. He'd grown accustomed to stretching every dollar, juggling bills, and working overtime just to keep Lily in her dance classes. This glittering world was entirely foreign to him. He made his way to the bar, figuring a drink might steady his nerves. "Just a club soda, please," he told the bartender, conscious of his limited funds. The $20 in his wallet needed to last the entire night. He'd already spent his splurge budget on the tuxedo rental. First time at one of these. The bartender smiled knowingly as he slid the glass across the counter. Owen nodded, taking a grateful sip. "That obvious, huh?" "Only to the trained eye," the bartender replied with a wink. Owen turned to survey the room, wondering how he would fulfill his promise to Marco to network with these people who lived on what seemed like another planet. His friend had assured him it would be simple, just mention Marco's investment firm and hand out business cards. Owen had stuffed a few into his pocket, but the thought of approaching anyone made his stomach clench. From across the room, he felt a distinct sensation of being watched. His eyes drifted toward a cluster of people gathered near a magnificent ice sculpture. Standing slightly apart from them was a woman whose presence seemed to command the very light in the room to gather around her. Her emerald gown complemented her auburn hair, which fell in gentle waves past her shoulders. She was looking directly at him, a slight smile playing on her lips. Owen quickly turned away, certain she must be looking at someone else. When he chanced another glance, she was making her way toward him. "You don't look like you're having much fun," she said, her voice warm and rich. Owen cleared his throat. "No, it's lovely. I'm just a bit out of my element." "Penelope Everett," she extended a slender hand, "though most people just call me Penny." "Owen Reeves," he replied, taking her hand. "I'm here for a friend." "A stand-in." Her smile widened, revealing a slight dimple in her right cheek. "Those can be the most interesting guests. No corporate agenda, no networking checklist, just honest conversation." There was something disarmingly genuine about her that put Owen at ease, despite her obvious wealth. The diamond earrings catching the light as she moved probably cost more than his yearly salary, but her eyes held no pretension. "So what do you do, Owen Reeves, when you're not being coerced into attending charity galas?" He hesitated, weighing whether to embellish his career. "I'm a construction foreman, not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills, most of them anyway." The last part slipped out before he could stop it. Instead of the polite disinterest he expected, Penny's eyes lit up. "Construction? That must be fascinating. Creating something tangible, something that lasts." Owen found himself relaxing slightly. "It has its moments. Right now, we're renovating the old Riverside Library. It's challenging work, but there's something satisfying about breathing new life into these historic buildings. The Riverside Project. I've heard wonderful things about the restoration. The community has been fighting for years to save that building. Before Owen could respond, a tall man in an impeccable suit approached, touching Penny's elbow gently. "Miss Everett, the mayor is asking for you." She nodded to the man before turning back to Owen. "Duty calls, but save a dance for me later." Owen blinked in surprise. "Of course." As she walked away, Owen couldn't help but stare. It was only when she disappeared into the crowd that the realization hit him. Everyone had been deferring to her all evening. He caught the bartender's eye. "Who exactly is Penelope Everett?" The bartender looked amused. "You really are new. That's Penny Everett, CEO of Everett Enterprises. She's the host of this whole event." Owen felt the blood drain from his face. Penny Everett was not just wealthy, she was legendary in the business world. Everett Enterprises was a global development corporation with projects on every continent. And he had just casually mentioned his small-time construction job to her. The next hour passed in a blur of awkward small talk with strangers who all seemed to know each other. Owen dutifully handed out Marco's business cards, but his thoughts kept drifting to Penny. He watched her from afar, gracefully navigating the room, stopping to chat with everyone from city officials to wait staff with equal attention and warmth. As the dinner portion of the evening began, Owen found himself seated at a table far from where Penny sat at the center of the room. He struggled through 4 courses of food he couldn't pronounce, attempting conversation with a hedge fund manager and his wife on one side and a pair of art gallery owners on the other. "And what firm are you with?" the hedge fund manager asked between bites of something that looked like it might have once swum in the ocean. "I'm just here representing a friend, Marco Alvarez from Summit Investments," Owen explained, feeling increasingly out of place. The dinner seemed endless, but eventually, the plates were cleared, and the orchestra struck up a livelier tune. Couples began to drift toward the dance floor, and Owen wondered if he should simply make a discreet exit. He had fulfilled his obligation to Marco, and the thought of returning to his apartment where Mrs. Patterson from across the hall was watching Lily was increasingly appealing. "I believe you promised me a dance," a voice said from behind him. Owen turned to find Penny standing there, her hand extended toward him. He hesitated only briefly before taking it. "I should warn you, I'm not much of a dancer." "Neither am I," she confessed with a laugh, "but it's expected of the host to participate." He followed her to the dance floor, acutely aware of the curious glances directed their way. Owen had never been more grateful for the basic waltz Lily had insisted on teaching him after her dance lessons. He placed one hand respectfully at Penny's waist, taking her right hand in his left. "So, Mr. Reeves, tell me something real," Penny said as they began to move to the music. "Something that matters to you." Owen considered for a moment before answering. "My daughter, Lily. She's 8 going on 30, too smart for her own good, and absolutely obsessed with space. She can name all the moons of Jupiter and explain black holes in a way that almost makes sense." Penny's smile was genuine. "She sounds wonderful." "She's everything," Owen said simply. "Her mother passed away 3 years ago, cancer. Since then, it's just been the 2 of us against the world." "I'm so sorry." Penny's eyes softened with empathy. "We're doing okay," Owen said, surprised by his own openness. "Some months are tighter than others, but Lily never goes without what she needs. That's what matters." "And what about you? What do you need, Owen?" The question caught him off guard. No one had asked him that in a very long time. "Honestly, just to see her happy, to know I'm doing right by her." They continued dancing, their conversation flowing easily from Lily's school projects to Penny's charity foundation that focused on educational opportunities for underprivileged children. Owen was startled to discover how unpretentious she was, how she spoke about her work with the same passion he felt for his own. "You know, your smile is quite extraordinary," Penny said suddenly. It transforms your whole face, especially when you talk about your daughter." Owen felt heat rise to his cheeks. "I don't smile much these days. Not a lot of reasons to, I guess." "That's a shame," she replied softly, her eyes meeting his. "The world could use more of it." The music ended, but neither of them immediately stepped apart. It was Penny who finally broke the spell. "Would you like to see something? Away from all this noise?" Curiosity piqued. Owen nodded. Penny led him through a side door and down a hallway to a small terrace overlooking the city skyline. The night air was cool and refreshing after the stuffiness of the ballroom. "This is my favorite spot in the whole hotel," Penny confided, leaning against the stone balustrade. "Whenever these events get overwhelming, I sneak out here for a few minutes of peace." Owen stood beside her, taking in the panoramic view of city lights reflecting off the river below. "It's beautiful." "Owen, can I ask you something candid?" Penny turned to face him fully. "Why did you really come tonight? You don't seem like the type to enjoy these functions." "My friend Marco had a family emergency. His mother was hospitalized. He begged me to come in his place because he'd paid a fortune for the ticket, and he thought it might be good for his business to have someone represent him." Owen shrugged. "I couldn't say no." "He was there for me when Sarah, my wife, was sick." Penny nodded thoughtfully. "Loyalty is rare these days. I admire that. It's not loyalty so much as understanding what it means to need help." Owen hesitated before continuing. "Marco doesn't know how tight things are for me right now." "I wouldn't want him to, but the truth is, I took on extra shifts this week just to make up for taking tonight off." "You're working 2 jobs?" "Sometimes 3, Owen admitted. "My regular construction work, weekend handyman jobs, and occasionally night security at a warehouse." "Lily's school has a great program for gifted kids, but the materials fees add up. And there's a space camp she's dying to attend next summer." Penny was quiet for a long moment. "You know, I wasn't born into wealth." Owen raised an eyebrow, surprised by the change in subject. "My father was a plumber, my mother a schoolteacher," she continued. "Everett was my mother's maiden name. I took it when I started the company because it sounded more corporate than my father's surname." "How did you go from that to all of this?" Owen gestured toward the ballroom. "A lot of hard work, some good timing, and a fair amount of luck," Penny said. "But I never forget where I came from. That's why events like tonight matter to me. The money we're raising goes to vocational training programs for people who need a second chance." They talked for what felt like hours, the gala continuing without them. Owen found himself sharing stories about Lily, about the challenges of single parenthood, about his dreams of someday starting his own small construction company. In turn, Penny told him about building her business from nothing, about the loneliness at the top, about how few people in her life saw her as just Penny rather than Penelope Everett, CEO. "It's getting late," Owen finally said, reluctantly checking his watch. "I should get home to Lily. Mrs. Patterson has to work early tomorrow." "Of course," Penny nodded, but there was a hint of disappointment in her eyes. "Thank you for the conversation, Owen. It's been refreshing." "I should be thanking you," Owen replied. "This evening turned out much better than I expected." As they walked back toward the ballroom, Penny suddenly touched his arm. "I have a proposal for you. My company is looking for a project manager for our community restoration division. Someone who understands construction from the ground up, who has integrity, and who cares about making a difference. Would you be interested?" Owen stopped in his tracks. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm suggesting you interview for one," Penny clarified. "No promises, but based on what you've told me about your experience, you'd be a strong candidate. The salary would be significantly better than what you're making now, with full benefits." Owen's mind raced. A stable job with benefits would change everything for him and Lily. But pride made him hesitate. "Is this charity?" "Because I don't need, this is business," Penny interrupted firmly. "I need someone who understands both construction and community value, someone who sees beyond dollar signs to the people whose lives are impacted by our projects. That's rare, Owen." After a moment's consideration, Owen nodded. I'd like to interview then. Excellent. Penny's smile returned. My assistant will contact you to set it up. Do you have a business card? Nothing so fancy, Owen admitted, but I can write down my number. Penny pulled a sleek card case from her clutch and handed him her card. Put your information on the back. As Owen wrote his number, he couldn't quite believe the turn the evening had taken. He returned the card, their fingers brushing momentarily. Good night, Owen Reeves, Penny said softly. I'm very glad your friend couldn't make it tonight. So am I, Owen replied, surprised to realize how sincerely he meant it. The next morning, Owen awoke to Lily bouncing on the edge of his bed, eager to hear all about the fancy party. He told her about the ice sculptures and the orchestra, carefully editing out the part about possibly interviewing for a new job. No sense getting her hopes up until something was certain. Did you meet any princesses, Dad? Lily asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Owen thought of Penny's warm smile and genuine interest. Sort of, but it turns out she was actually a CAO. What's a CAO? Lily tilted her head. It means she's in charge of a big company. She makes important decisions and helps a lot of people. Like a boss, Lily nodded sagely. Was she nice? Very nice, Owen confirmed. And very smart like you. By Monday morning, Owen had almost convinced himself the entire encounter had been a dream. He returned to work at the Riverside Library renovation, focusing on the intricate plasterwork that needed restoration in the main reading room. It was just after lunch when his phone rang with an unknown number. Stepping away from the noise of the construction, he answered. Mr. Reeves. This is Deanna Wright, Miss Everett's executive assistant. I'm calling to schedule your interview for the project manager position. Would Wednesday at 2 p.m. work for you? Owen's heart raced. Yes, that would be fine, thank you. Excellent. I'll email you the details and some preliminary paperwork. Miss Everett is looking forward to introducing you to the team. After hanging up, Owen stood in stunned silence. It was real. He was actually being considered for a position that could change everything for him and Lily. Wednesday arrived with alarming speed. Owen had spent his savings on a new shirt and tie, had his one decent pair of slacks professionally pressed, and borrowed a sports jacket from Marco, who was still profusely thanking him for attending the gala. Everett Enterprises occupied the top 10 floors of a gleaming downtown tower. Owen felt his confidence wavering as he rode the elevator to the executive floor, surrounded by people in expensive suits carrying leather portfolios. Deanna, a composed woman in her 40s, greeted him warmly and led him to a spacious conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. To his surprise, rather than a formal interview panel, he found only Penny waiting for him. Owen, thank you for coming, she said, standing to greet him. In a tailored navy suit with her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, she looked every inch the powerful CEO, yet her smile held the same warmth he remembered. Thank you for the opportunity, he replied, shaking her outstretched hand. Before we begin officially, I want to be transparent, Penny said, gesturing for him to take a seat. I've already run your name past our HR department and construction division head. Your references from previous projects speak for themselves, particularly the historical restoration work. This interview is more of a formality. Owen blinked in surprise. You checked my references already. I'm efficient, Penny said with a slight smile, and I have excellent instincts about people. The interview proceeded more like a conversation about Owen's approach to construction management, his experience with historical preservation, and his ideas about community involvement in urban renewal projects. Penny listened intently, asking insightful questions that demonstrated her deep understanding of the industry. There's one more thing, Penny said as the interview wound down. The position requires some evening events, community meetings, presentations to neighborhood associations, that sort of thing. Would that be manageable with your family situation? Owen hesitated. Honestly, childcare would be a challenge. Since Sarah passed, I've had to piece together a network of neighbors and after-school programs. But if I had advance notice, I could make arrangements. Penny nodded thoughtfully. Our company actually has an on-site childcare facility that stays open late on meeting nights. Several of our employees are single parents. Lily would be welcome there. That would make an enormous difference, Owen admitted. Then I think we're settled. Penny stood, extending her hand again. The position is yours if you want it, Owen. Starting salary is $85,000 with full benefits, including health insurance, retirement matching, and education assistance. Owen felt dizzy. The amount was more than double what he currently made, even with his side jobs. Yes, I accept. Excellent. Deanna will help you with the paperwork. Penny's professional demeanor softened slightly. I'm looking forward to working with you, Owen. As he followed Deanna to complete his employment forms, Owen struggled to process what had just happened. By the time he left the building, he had a new job, a company badge, and a start date 2 weeks away. That evening, he sat Lily down for a serious talk. Sweetie, I have some news. I've been offered a new job. It's a big change, but a good one. Lily's brow furrowed. But I like your job now. You build things. I'll still be working with buildings, but in a different way. I'll be helping decide how to fix old buildings and make them useful again. And the best part is, I won't have to work nights or weekends anymore. We'll have more time together. Lily considered this solemnly. Will we still have to eat mac and cheese 4 times a week? Owen laughed, pulling her into a hug. No, we can have some variety in our menu. And you know that space camp you wanted to go to? I think we might be able to make that happen now. Lily's eyes widened. Really? For real? For real, Owen confirmed, his heart full at his daughter's excitement. The next 2 weeks passed in a whirlwind of wrapping up his current project and preparing for the new position. On his first day at Everett Enterprises, Owen arrived early, dressed in the new business casual attire he'd purchased with his sign-on bonus. Deanna showed him to his office, an actual office with a door and windows, not the job site trailer he was accustomed to. By lunchtime, his head was spinning with information about ongoing projects, community partnerships, and company protocols. How's it going? Penny appeared in his doorway, looking far more approachable in person than her formidable reputation suggested. It's overwhelming, Owen admitted. But exciting. Thank you again for this opportunity. You earned it, she replied simply. Would you like to join me for lunch? There's a good cafe in the building. Over sandwiches, they discussed his first impressions and the projects he would be overseeing. Owen was struck by how easily conversation flowed between them, despite their different backgrounds. Have you told Lily about the childcare center? Penny asked. We can arrange for her to visit before she starts, if that would help. That would be great, Owen said gratefully. She's excited but nervous. Change isn't always easy for her. Penny nodded understandingly. Children are resilient, but they need stability. I admire how you've provided that for her despite your challenges. I've done my best, Owen shrugged. Some days are better than others. That's all any of us can do, Penny replied, her expression softening. My father raised me alone after my mother died. It wasn't easy for him either. The shared experience created an unexpected connection between them. As the weeks passed, Owen settled into his new role, quickly earning the respect of his team with his practical knowledge and straightforward management style. Lily thrived in the company's childcare program, particularly enjoying their science-focused activities. Penny made a point of checking in with Owen regularly, often under the guise of project updates. Their professional relationship gradually developed a warmth that made Owen look forward to their meetings more than he cared to admit. It was after a particularly successful community presentation about the Riverside Library, now Owen's flagship project, that something shifted. They had stayed late, reviewing the feedback from neighborhood residents, when Penny suddenly set down her pen. Owen, would you and Lily like to join me for dinner this weekend? Not for work, just dinner. The invitation caught him off guard. Yes, we'd like that. Penny's relief was visible. Wonderful. There's a place near the Botanical Gardens that does an amazing Sunday brunch. Lily might enjoy seeing the butterfly pavilion afterward. The Sunday outing was a revelation. Penny arrived dressed casually in jeans and a simple blouse, looking younger and more relaxed than Owen had ever seen her. Lily was initially shy, but Penny won her over by asking knowledgeable questions about space and black holes. "Did you research astronomy just to talk to my daughter?" Owen asked quietly while Lily was distracted by her pancakes. Penny's cheeks colored slightly. "Maybe. Was it that obvious?" "Only to me," he assured her with a smile. It was thoughtful. After brunch, they explored the butterfly pavilion, Lily's delighted laughter filling the warm, humid air as the colorful insects fluttered around them. Owen found himself watching Penny as much as the butterflies, struck by how naturally she interacted with his daughter. "Dad, Penny knows all about Saturn's rings," Lily exclaimed. "She said we could look at them through a real telescope sometime. Did she now?" Owen raised an eyebrow at Penny. "I may have a decent telescope gathering dust in my apartment," Penny admitted. "It was a gift to myself when I closed my first major deal. I thought Lily might appreciate it more than I do these days." As the afternoon drew to a close, Lily ran ahead to examine a fountain, leaving the adults a moment of privacy. "Thank you for today," Owen said sincerely. "Lily hasn't had this much fun in ages." "Neither have I," Penny confessed. "Owen, I'd like to see you both again." "Not just at work and not just as friends." Owen hesitated, the practical differences in their lives looming large in his mind. "Penny, our worlds are very different. You, and I'm just getting back on my feet." "Do you think I care about any of that?" Penny asked, her eyes earnest. "Since that night at the gala, I've thought about your smile, your honesty, the way you talk about your daughter. Those things matter to me, not your bank balance or your address." "What would people say?" "The tabloids would have a field day CEO dates employee, film at 11, Penny laughed. "Let them talk. I've spent too many years worrying about appearances and not enough focusing on what makes me happy." She took a breath. "Being with you and Lily today made me happy." Owen looked at Lily, now throwing pennies into the fountain with careful consideration for each wish. "She comes first, always." "I would never ask for anything different," Penny assured him. "We can take it slow, see where it leads." 3 months later, their cautious beginning had blossomed into something neither had expected. Penny became a regular presence at their modest apartment for movie nights and homework sessions. Owen discovered her surprising competitiveness during board games and her terrible singing voice during karaoke. Lily flourished with another caring adult in her life, especially one who encouraged her scientific curiosity. The office gossip had subsided after the initial shock, particularly when it became clear that Owen's professional competence stood on its own merit. If anything, his perspective as someone who had worked in the trenches of construction brought valuable insight to the company's projects. On a crisp autumn evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Owen and Penny sat on his small balcony, sharing a bottle of wine. "I have something to tell you," Penny said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. Owen felt a flicker of anxiety. "That sounds ominous." "No, it's good. At least I think it's good." Penny took his hand. "The Riverside Library project has been nominated for a Community Impact Award. As project manager, you would attend the ceremony next month." "That's wonderful news," Owen said, relaxing. "The team worked hard on that restoration." "There's more," Penny continued. "The ceremony is in Paris. The company would cover all expenses, of course, including for Lily." Owen stared at her in disbelief. "Paris, as in France?" "The very same," Penny smiled. "It would be a perfect opportunity for a family vacation. Lily has never been abroad, has she?" "She's barely been out of the state," Owen laughed. "She would be over the moon." Penny's expression grew more serious. "Owen, these past months have been the happiest of my life. I never expected to find someone like you, someone who sees me for who I am, not what I've accomplished." "I feel the same way," Owen admitted. You've changed our lives in ways I never imagined possible." "I don't want to just change your lives," Penny said softly. "I want to be part of them, permanently." Owen's heart raced as he realized what she was saying. "Penny, I'm not proposing yet," she clarified with a gentle laugh. "But I want you to know that's where my heart is heading. I love you, Owen Reeves, and I love Lily. I want to build a future together if you'll have me." Owen pulled her close, kissing her with all the emotion he'd once thought he'd never feel again. "We'd be lucky to have you," he whispered against her lips. "I love you too." 1 year to the day after Owen had reluctantly attended the charity gala in Marco's place, he stood in the same ballroom, this time as Penny's date rather than a stand-in. The annual event had become a meaningful anniversary for them, a reminder of how unexpectedly life could change. "Nervous?" Penny asked, adjusting his bow tie affectionately. "Not anymore," Owen replied, taking her hand. His gaze drifted to where Lily stood chatting animatedly with Penny's father, showing him the constellation map on her new tablet. Their family had expanded in ways he never could have predicted. Lily now had not only a potential stepmother in Penny, but also a doting grandfather in Penny's father, a retired plumber who had more in common with Owen than either had initially expected. "By the way," Penny said casually, "I saw Marco earlier. He says he's still taking credit for our relationship, since his mother's gallbladder surgery was what got you here in the first place." Owen laughed. "I should send her flowers. Best medical emergency ever." As they moved toward the dance floor, Owen caught their reflection in one of the ornate mirrors. The contrast between this year and last couldn't have been more profound. No longer an outsider, he moved through the room with confidence, greeting people by name, discussing the community projects he now managed. "You're smiling again," Penny observed, her eyes warm with affection. "It's what made me notice you that first night, you know." In a room full of practiced social smiles, yours was the only genuine one. "I have a lot more reasons to smile these days," Owen replied, drawing her closer as the music began. As they danced beneath the crystal chandeliers, surrounded by the same opulence that had once made Owen feel so out of place, he marveled at the journey that had brought them here. From a reluctant stand-in to a man with a future brighter than he could have imagined, all because he'd honored a friend's request and stepped into a world he never thought he'd belong in. And found, against all odds, that he belonged there after all, not because of wealth or status, but because a remarkable woman had seen something in his smile worth falling in love with.